Hello everybody and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda and today we're going to be looking at the second part of my Catan variant, the point variant. If you'd like to see the first part, go ahead and click on this. It will show you both the main feel of the game, the main mechanic, and my production variant. The first thing that my point variant is trying to solve is, again, the discrepancy of those 5 different resources. You see, they are not equally valuable, even though the game kind of wants you to feel like they're equally valuable. Last week, I tried to solve a very similar problem with how the production of the 5 were not even. However, that didn't do enough to solve that problem. So, this point variant fully solves the problem when combined with that production variant. However, I did make a mistake last week when talking about this problem of this uneven value of these 5. You see, I said that brick was the most used resource at 11 uses per game. This was actually a mistake. I included the 2 roads that you get at the beginning of the game as roads people needed to build. This, of course, made brick and wood more important by my calculations. I realized this because a kind commenter pointed out that I had made a mistake and that wheat was probably the most important resource. I double-checked my numbers, I realized my mistake, and this solution came out. However, despite wheat being the most needed, the most used, so to speak, brick and ore are actually more important. And let me explain why. First of all, brick is absolutely necessary to use your wheat. And the reason it is absolutely necessary is you need brick to spread out on the board to build roads. Whereas you don't need wheat to get to many of the things you need to build with brick. So, this makes it so that brick is slightly more important. But there's an even more compelling reason why brick is more important and why ore is actually more important than wheat. You see, for brick and ore, you need 10 cards a game on average. For wheat, you need 11. That's a 10% difference in importance. You need 10% more wheat than you need of ore or brick. However, brick and ore are produced on average 22% less of the time than wheat. This is because brick and ore only have 3 spaces on the board each, whereas wheat has 4 spaces on the board. So, because of this discrepancy, it actually means that brick and ore are more important because you are going to need to put more stuff next to them to get the same amount that you need, those 10 cards that you need per game, whereas with wheat, there are so many spots to get it that you're more likely to be able to go and grab it if you need to. This means that, in my opinion, the order of importance goes brick, ore, wheat, then wood, and of course, finally, sheep, because in the original game, you only need 6 of them, and as I just said, you need 11 wheat. So, again, my statement from last week still stands that sheep, as a meme of everybody having too many, is still the logical thing that is going to happen to almost every single Catan game. To solve this issue, I created this building cost sheet. This building cost sheet makes it so that all of the resources are used an almost identical number of times, and are equally important to getting you points. This differs from the original cost sheet, where some of the resources were clearly more or less important. My second problem that this variant is trying to solve is the fact that the different things you can build in this game are more or less valuable, better deals, so to speak. Let me show you exactly why this is the case. To build a city requires only 5 resources. To build a settlement, you need on average 6 to 8 resources because of the roads. Thus, to get 1 point and 1 extra production, you need 1 to 3 extra resources to do settlements as opposed to cities. So doing cities makes more sense. On top of this, cities require less diversification. You just need to be next to wheat and ore. You don't need to be next to 4 different things, which means that you don't have to sit there and hope for something as often because you just pile up next to the things you need the most. My changes make it so that each of these things will be relatively good at getting points based on their cost. So a road is going to be worth less because it only costs 1 brick, but despite that, it's still going to be worth a number of points relative to that cost. Just like a city being 4 resources will be more valuable points-wise. And I do this by adding a few different things. First of all, I divide the development deck into 2 different decks. A night deck and a culture deck. The night deck is all of the night cards, separated and put into one deck face up so you can go buy a night card whenever you need it. This makes thematic sense because when you're hiring an army, you're not usually randomly drawing from a pile hoping that you get army. You go out and hire an army. It also makes it so that if you're going for the largest army card, this will actually be a way to do that without possibly getting something that doesn't help you towards that goal. The other thing I put in is the culture cards. These are all the cards from the development deck that were not night cards. And so you simply shuffle these up, and you pick them up at random, just like you did with the development deck. But now you have a higher chance of getting these 1-point cards, and of getting economic bonuses without getting bogged down in a ton of knights that maybe you didn't want. The second change I made was to the bonus cards. First, I changed the bonus cards that already existed. I changed the largest army to no longer require 2 soldiers. You now only need 1 soldier, the first soldier in the game, to have the largest army. Second, I made it so that the largest army now has a 2nd and a 3rd place token that you will use in a 3-player and a 3 and 4-player game respectively. So that makes it so that your knights costing 3 resources are going to actually give you a bang for those 3 resources, a deal for those 3 resources. The other one that I changed was the longest road card. I changed the longest road card so that whoever has the longest road, no matter what length it is, will get this card. Now, if people start the game tied, let's say that 2 different factions, red and white, both start with 2 roads, neither of them have the longest road, so neither of them would get this card. However, if white was the only one who had the longest road with 2 roads, they would get the longest road card. Now, the 2nd place token does the same thing as it did for the largest army. It makes it so that each road individually isn't worth as little as it would have been normally. I also added 2 bonus cards. First, I added the most cultured card. The most cultured card is whoever gets the first culture card and plays it down, which you will now play yellow culture cards. If you don't play victory point cards, you will not get the victory point for them. So now you have to play those to get the victory point. But whoever plays the first culture card will get the most cultured. Whoever passes them will take the most cultured card. And there is a 2nd place token worth 1 victory point for the person who gets 2nd place, who has the 2nd most culture cards played in front of them. The final card that I have is the most cities card. Now, this card you only play with in a 3 or 4 player game, and it gives you points if you have the most cities. So in this case, blue has the most cities with 1, and therefore blue would get the most cities card worth 2 victory points. All of this helps make these buildings and things that you can build equally valuable, and ultimately makes it so that all of the 5 resources are equally valuable towards getting you points. In the end, they are almost identical in how many points they could potentially give you in a game. And that is essential to Catan working, because Catan is about you using different avenues and different ways of settling to win. So I would love to hear in the comments more comments like the one that prompted me to realize that I had made a mistake. This is exactly what I want from you guys, is respectful challenges to my ideas or respectful agreement to my ideas that help make my ideas better. If you like my ideas, maybe try to give a suggestion to make it better. If you don't like it, let me know why you don't like it and maybe why you disagree with my math or whatever you disagree with. I absolutely love it and enjoy it, and I look forward to more of it in the future. Join us next week for the final segment on my Catan variant, the Market Variant. The Market Variant, unlike these two variants where I would recommend that you play the Production and Point variant together, the Market Variant could be played with regular Catan, it could be played with both the other variants or one of the other variants, and still add a lot to the game. And as always, please hit that subscribe button. It absolutely means a lot to us. And join us next time on Rest and Reason.